What's up and welcome back. I'm John Stark from MacMovieGuy.com, your favorite blind film critic. And today, we're taking a look at Dogman, the 2025 movie, not the 2024 one. I do have a review of Dogman, directed by Luc Besson. This is Dogman from Dreamworks Animation. Two totally different movies. Make sure you rent the right ones for your kids. uh, oh man. Um, so this is Dog Space Man. There's a space in between dog and man. Um, I am a blind film critic. This movie does have audio description, so click like and subscribe. We're gonna get into it. First, I don't introduce myself enough in videos for my blind viewers. I do have a purple hat on backwards, black sunglasses. I have a beard. I'm white, and I've got Fast and Furious shirt on right now, t-shirt. That's really all you should be able to see. Behind me, maybe some posters for Dark Knight and X-Men. So, what to say about Dogman? It's man, it's a dream. It's DreamWorks. But it doesn't feel like it. Um, it's based on a property I'm not familiar with, like a series of books. So I guess if you're more familiar with the books, you're going to enjoy the movie a little bit more. Although there are plenty of things where I haven't read the book and I've been able to enjoy the movie more than this. What I will say might come back around before you click and be like, well, this guy doesn't understand it, is I think kids will like this. I think it plays to a younger audience more than a lot of DreamWorks movies do. Although it also has some references for adults that are just kind of like shockingly like, what? There's like a Colonel Kurtz reference in here from Apocalypse Now that I'm like, well, that's definitely going to go over kids' heads. And I was thinking, that's not even the first Apocalypse. I feel like last year we had Apocalypse Now uh, reference in a kids' movie. And I can't remember which one it was, but there definitely was one. And I remember thinking then, like, who's this for? You know? Like, what? Is this for adults? Do they assume that all adults? Because we're getting to the point where, I mean, Apocalypse Now is it's older than I am. It's a classic, granted. I mean, and so is the book, but you're going to start aging yourself out of even the demographic for people who have little kids. Because if you have people, parents of 5 to 10 year olds, which I would say is probably the target demo for this, um, I don't know that they were alive to see Apocalypse Now in theaters. I mean, maybe they were. You know, we got some people starting, doing their second family things. We got some old guys out there doing their second, third families, Alec Baldwin type shit, and getting up. But that's not the norm. So, Dogman starts off and it has sort of like an opening sequence that explains to you how we get to Dogman, but that's not really what the movie's about. Once you establish that Dogman is a thing and that he's some sort of crime fighter, uh, it's kind of baffling. It's like it feels like an SNL sketch or something like that, or Robot Chicken or something like that. Um, most of the movie actually lies with Petey the cat, who's the villain, who's voiced by Pete Davidson, and his attempts to, I don't know, do evil and defeat Dogman. Um, and he creates a clone of himself, Little Petey, who is fucking adorable. Like, is one of the best things about this movie. I loved Little Petey so much. It's one of the things I was like, I think they got an actual child actor to do this, and the voicing is perfect because it sounds so young and it's so cute. And from a standpoint of sitting here and having to listen to the movie, I loved Little Petey. The rest of the movie around Little Petey is all over the place. It's a hot mess. It's occasionally funny. It's like some stuff occasionally works, but some stuff is it's so random. But then again, that might be the style of the books. Sort of Captain Underpants. When you come into that not knowing what that is, you're like, this is weird. This is a weird premise. Um, but so is Quail Man, who kind of had the same sort of premise back in the day with Doug. I mean, it'd be like if they did a Quail Man movie. I mean, movies for kids, we do a lot of kind of silly things with, and even when they're not movies, when they're just cartoons, they're really kind of silly for a reason. That's why I'm saying, like, I think this is meant for little kids. I don't think this is like a broad project meant to explore to reach older kids and teens and adults and have everybody. This is not How to Train Your Dragon. This doesn't have broad appeal. This has little kid appeal, and then they threw in some jokes for the adults so they don't fall asleep. Um, and there's a market for that. I'm not gonna be the critic that stands here and is like, no, I didn't like it because I'm an adult, and this movie plays to the lowest common denominator, children. Like, obviously plays to kids. So, um, I wish I had them so that I could have watched them with it and see how they reacted to the movie. Um, and I think maybe that would have affected my grade higher if I could be like, well, my kid loved it, or my kid fell asleep during it, would have also gone the other way. But my gut instinct here is that it reminds me a lot of the cartoons I used to watch growing up, and it feels like it has the kind of odd energy behind it that something would have if it was a Nicktoon or coming off of Network. So it doesn't feel like it's DreamWorks. That's kind of the problem, is it inherently doesn't feel like it's DreamWorks. It feels like it could have come from any animation studio, which is going to be the disappointing factor, is that there's something really here that stands out to me as being DreamWorks. It has an interesting supporting cast full of people from Isla Fisher and Lil Rel Howery who have a little bit more screen time, all the way down to a whole bunch of like random former SNL players like Sherry O'Terry, Melissa Villaseñor, Lorraine Newman, all pop up in small roles. Stephen Root, um, Ricky Gervais. Like, we have a whole bunch of people who just kind of are in this to help sort of boost the voice cast clout. So yeah, I I think adults will be fine. I think you've seen worse. You know, if you have little kids, you probably, based on the age range, based on how many years ago the Paw Patrol movies were, and then you probably working them into Dog Man. You probably have, if your kid's like 8 or 9, they probably saw the Paw Patrol movies already. So you've probably sat through things that are playing lower than this. So I think you'll be fine, because again, there are some jokes here that work. There are some times here that I was charmed, and I did really think Little Petey was an adorable introduction to the cast. That being said, I would be shocked if this was in my top 5 or 10 animated films of the year. Um, I think Pete Davidson did a fine voice work, but outside of that, this movie all sort of rests on Little Petey being sort of this um, the force for furthering the plot, the force for pulling more character development out of anybody he comes in contact with, the force for you being interested in the film. I mean, this little adorable kitten clone is like that's it. That's like the whole movie for me. I mean, Dogman like as a character wasn't that interesting. The title character was the least interesting thing about the movie. Watching Petey evolve as a character was far more interesting in his interactions. Dogman kind of accepts little Petey in sort of the kind of way that you would expect like a normal person to react to a small child, you know, and whereas Petey does not, and it's more about his growth from the beginning of the film to the end of the film that makes the film more interesting. It's one of those films where the villain becomes more interesting than the hero. Megamind, for example. And speaking of Megamind, this is one of those reasons where I'm like, I definitely think Dogman is not the worst thing DreamWorks has made, because unfortunately we had Megamind versus the Doom Syndicate last year, which was atrocious. So this is better than that, certainly. It's like I was thinking about Orion in the Dark. It's probably around that level, maybe a little bit better than that. I don't remember every single DreamWorks movie off the top of my head and exactly how I loved or didn't love every single one. But I'm sure there's probably like another DreamWorks movie that's around the same level as Dogman I just didn't jive with. But in large part, I love most of their movies, or like to love most of their movies. And like the How to Train Your Dragon trilogy is great. Most of the Shrek movies, at least half of them, Shrek 1 and 2 at least, are really good. Shrek the Third is, and then after that, Kung Fu Panda movies kind of like the same thing. The longer they go on, the least interesting, So I don't know. The audio description for the movie was pretty good. I think it probably could have played to little kids a little bit more, because that's kind of the thing. It kind of felt like it was a narrator for adults and not for kids. So if I had to give the narrator voice choice note, that would be what I would say. Is I mentioned this in a couple times. We live in a world now where we're sort of like on the brink of AI voices and using TCS voices, and studios have to start being smart about their casting and thinking about the right person for the job in more ways than one. We should have enough narrators now that it can't possibly just be, am I hiring a quality narrator for the job? It's, am I hiring the right narrator for the job? And there are several factors that play into those choices. What's the genre for the film? What's the theme of the film? Who's the intended audience, most likely intended audience for the film? And then kind of look at the broad spectrum of talent that's available to narrate your film. Don't just look at the same like 3 people that you've been using for years and years. Try to branch out and figure out, okay, so this is that, and it makes more sense. Should we have a male or female voice for this? Or, we should have a male because of this reason, or a female because of this reason. What's the audience? Oh, well, this is for little kids, so we should have somebody who sounds engaging for little kids, not engaging for adults. I want to engage little kids with this movie. My grading system and everything is based on the fact that I am an adult, but also part of it is I refuse to fail this movie because I actually think kids will like this. I think this one, it reminds me a lot about kids, about being a kid and the kind of things that I watched as a kid. And just because new cartoons come along and I'm now an adult, and it's harder for me to grasp onto things that are aimed at kids today, doesn't necessarily mean that that this doesn't have value. I think it does. I think this is exactly the kind of thing. Whether or not it should, I would say there is sort of a big plot line here about, the bad guy finding his, sort of like having a Grinch moment, right? Where he has to figure out and end up ultimately doing a good thing, but whether he likes it or not, So, Dogman. Not gonna be my favorite animated feature of the year. I think it's, not my favorite DreamWorks movie of the year. I think it's maybe a little bit better than Orion in the Dark from last year, which I gave C+ to. I think it's probably on par with Kung Fu Panda 4, probably Shrek 4, which were all like okay. This is somewhere like a C+ or a B-. I'm just gonna keep it sort of like a C+ with Orion in the Dark. I don't think it's that much better than Orion, but I would lean fresh on this and say fresh, because as an adult, it's something that I necessarily wouldn't engage with, but if I had kids, if something I just had kids, they were just here, and they were like, "Here are your kids." I'm like, "Oh, well, wanna see Dog Man?" You know, like, I think it's probably right up their alley. I think it's probably something they would really enjoy. So, um, that's it. Thanks for watching, thanks for subscribing. I'll see you guys on the other side.